Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of RPG Radio. My name is Winback, and on today's episode we've got the finale of the Commando cocktail build that we started last week. And instead of doing the plain old, overworld playthrough, the story campaign stuff that I usually do with these things, I figured I'll put him through the first couple levels of the Shattered Realm and see just how long it takes him to get through this sort of stuff. The spoiler alert for this video is that it does take the build quite a good chunk of time to get rid of some of the bigger mobs in the Shattered Realm, which is a little bit upsetting, but it's also, pretty survivable. So just kind of standing there and all the damage still feels good, but it doesn't feel good when it just lives and lives and lives and lives and lives. That being said, though, I do still have a whole lot going on with this build in Ultimate that is much better than it was in the previous video, so we'll talk about all that. I'll bring you up to speed on all the devotions, talk about some of the gear that is going on in the build too, and what it should look like at the end of all things. So let's talk about devotions first, because I did get some tips from those lovely comments down below on the first part of this video that were really helpful in terms of getting the build to do the right amounts of damage in the right places. So let's start outward in, shall we? We've got Ulzwin's Torch. Ulzwin's Torch is pretty easy. I mean, it's a fire build at the end of the day, and we're going to affix the Blackwater Cocktail to Ulzwin's Torch so that 30% of the time that the cocktail is going off, we're going to drop a Meteor Shower. Meteor Shower dealing physical damage, fire damage, and burn damage in a pretty decent radius, and since we can have Blackwater Cocktail up basically all the time, even with its cooldown, this is going to be super good. Don't sleep on the resistances or the flat fire damage in this constellation as well. It is one of those outer constellations, so it's really, really fantastic for everything else that it's going to give you. Next, we've got the right side of the Abomination. Abomination giving us poison acid resistance and an increase to the cap on that, along with offensive ability, and the skill itself, Abominable Might, is a 20% chance on attack affixed to Fire Strike that is going to deal chaos damage, and it's going to increase our health regen by 100% for 12 seconds. So health regen, health in particular, all that stuff being tanky is important for this build, so Abomination is also very important for this build. Moving down the constellation line, I guess you can probably see where I'm going, because right next to the Abomination is the Behemoth. Attached to Vindictive Flame is going to be the Giant's Blood from Behemoth, which gives us 20% plus 1200 flat of our maximum health restored, and a huge chunk of health regenerated per second. So 15% chance when we get hit, because we've got it attached to Vindictive Flame, that we get a very large chunk of health returned to us. And since we're in Ultimate and things hit us really hard really fast, having that kind of screamy panic heal button is super important. Now, next down the line is going to be the Magi, and I did not go for the complete Magi either. We took off. There is a final point I didn't go for that's just giving us attack speed, cast speed, physique, and burn damage. That is the Magi's lower right side but left hand. So don't worry about taking that one. You're going to use that point to put it over into the the ability for Rowan's Crown, but we'll talk about that in a second. Anyway, the Magi itself, what we really want is Fissure, and Fissure gives you a % chance on attack to basically make those tiny volcanoes that you're seeing all over the screen. And the cool thing that I found out through the comments in the last video is that the Warcry is going to give you a 100% chance on attack when it is affixed to Fissure through the Magi. So basically, your Warcry is going to do all the fun stuff that it does normally, but it's also going to launch a random volcano underneath an enemy. And for further context, if you're fighting against a boss, there's only one guy on the screen, that is going to go directly underneath them. Otherwise, if it's a mob, it's just going to go randomly, you know, kind of wherever you want to. But seeing as how it's on Warcry, all those guys are going to be taunted at you anyway, so you can really just sit on top of the fire puddle and watch it do the magic. It's really fantastic. Let's see, what's next? We have got, let's just talk about Rowan's Crown. Rowan's Crown is only going to be halfway completed as well because we don't need the completion bonus. We need the elemental damage, number 1. We need the spirit and defensive ability, number 2. And then Elemental Storm, which is the middle point, the activatable ability. And that is going to just make a puddle of elemental damage. It's purple. It sits in the middle of everything. You can see it going on. I attach it to Flashbang because Flashbang is just basically always off cooldown. Scratch that. It is always off cooldown. I don't think it has a cooldown period. But when you use it, you're going to help it deal some damage while also reducing defensive ability for the people that get hit by it. Elemental Storm is, it's reducing elemental resistance as well. That being, you know, fire is an element, so we definitely want to reduce that as much as possible, coupled with our thermite mines and all the other stuff that we're shredding resistances on. It's super useful, so don't let me talk about that anymore. Next is going to be Empty Throne, which is right next to Rowan's Crown. This one is just for the reduced stun duration, the chaos resistance, the defensive ability, and the other resistances. It's Aether, it's Pierce, it's Chaos, it's Stun Reduction. It's just all around a super useful defensive constellation, and I don't think a tanky class should be without it. Further down the line is going to be Quill. Quill has elemental damage baked into it, so, you know, right there we're getting some benefit out of it. It's got energy as well, which I didn't think I was really going to need in Ultimate, but it turns out I am a liar. So more energy equals more better. The flat health bonus that it's giving us isn't bad either, and all the way up at the tippy top, we're going to get percent energy, percent defensive ability. Really, this one is one of those ones that you want to take just for filling the devotion chart out to get to the outer edges, but it's full of stats that are good enough to take it over the other ones that are possible. Next up is Spider. I don't think I have to sing the praises of Spider too much. You put 5 points in, you get 6 points out for green. Sometimes that's really all you need. It's giving you Cunning and Spirit, offensive ability, attack speed, defensive ability. It's just an all-around good guy devotion. And then we're going to go Jackal next, which is just 3 points, but you're getting 3 red for that as well. Not only that, but 2% physical resistance. Phys res, super, super important for ultimate football, ultimate frisbee, ultimate super smack, I don't know. Ultimate difficulty, you know what I'm talking about. Not only that though, but Jackal does give you 6% energy as well. So your energy bar goes up 6% because you've taken this constellation and completed it. So fantastic, fantastic stuff there. And then the last two that we're going to talk about are Fiend, which is the one that I was calling Demon last time, and Imp, which is also a pretty early on powerful devotion. So that being said, each of them is going to be giving you a fire and chaos damage and resistance. Luckily, I mean, giving you all over the place. Aether resistance as well coming through on Imp, and the abilities that come out of both of these devotions are pretty, they work pretty well with our kit. So Aether Fire, we're going to attach that to Blitz. There's a 3-second duration on it, and it's going to deal fire and aether damage with a chance to confuse targets. It's only a 15% chance on attack, but since Blitz hits in an AoE, we're basically going to increase that when we dive into big mobs. So, you dive in, if you hit the Aether Fire, it can confuse people, send them away, make the mob easier to deal with. Or it could just deal damage, because you know that's what it's all about. It's got a 3-second duration and no cooldown, so you can rip Blitz as much as you want to. Actually, it may be a smarter idea to swap Blitz and Thermite Mine. Yeah, that might be a better idea. Thermite Mine should be on Imp, because Imp doesn't have a cooldown on Aether Fire, and Blitz itself does have a cooldown, whereas the Thermite Mines are going to last about 12 seconds. No, they're going to last more than that. I think they're going to last almost 20 seconds because of our Monster Infrequent. But because they last so long and they can hit in an AoE and they can hit at range, they'll be able to activate the Imp passive quite a bit more, the Aether Fire. But that being said, then Blitz would attach to Flame Torrent on the Fiend, which is still Fire and Chaos and Burn damage, but it's also going to add in some of your weapon damage as well. It's only a 0.5 second skill recharge, so it's a little bit less of a problem that you're not using it, whereas Aether Fire is you have the ability to use it as often as possible, so you want to take the ability to use it as often as possible with the ability that is going to hit more often. I hope that made sense, because I know it was a little bit wordy. But yeah, that's the devotions in a nutshell. So let's talk now about some gear. There is a set bonus that I was really trying to complete before I got this video out, and I just could not finish it for whatever reason. And that is the Infernal Knights set, the Infernal Champion. This is the helmet, not gloves, helmet, shoulders, jacket, and belt. So it's a 4-piece. It doesn't take up any weapon slots. It's not super invasive like something like the Deathmarked set. And on top of that, the helmet is going to modify a Blackwater Cocktail to increase the radius, add some burn damage to it, and it's also going to increase the target area for Thermite Mine as well. So 2 of the big damage dealing abilities in our kit are getting buffed by just putting on the Infernal Knight's helmet, which is fantastic. Add on to that, you get 1 to all skills in Demolitionist, and there's really no reason not to put this on, I don't think. You even get a chance to avoid projectiles, so you get some deflect chance on top of everything else. It's built for the end game. The pauldrons, unfortunately, are a little bit more sad, but they do have a lot of passive ability to them that makes them heckin' worth it as well. So they're going to give you points into Blackwater and Hellfire Mine, but they are going to increase that chance to avoid projectiles even further. They're going to give you physical resistance, which is fantastic, and they're going to increase the energy that you are regenerating per second as well, which is, again, I hope I don't need to remind anybody, but this build is mega energy hungry, and it doesn't feel good to run out. So the other piece that we have is the belt, the Infernal Knight's girdle. This one is probably the saddest of the 3 that I've got right now, but it is, again, giving 2 points to Blackwater Cocktail and Thermite Mine. Both of those super necessary for our build. There's Aether and Poison Resist added on there, but other than that, it is only giving us a % bonus to health, which inevitably is it's kind of lackluster compared to the stats that we were getting on the other 2. I'm not going to knock it. I mean, health is good, especially a health % increase, but still feels a little bit bad. And the 3-set completion that we have with these 3 pieces is giving us 14% total speed, 25% vitality resistance, 25% bleeding resistance. The 2-set bonus is giving you 14% health and a 30% reduction in burn duration. Whew, these were some tanky big bads. The Shattered Realm is just all about not pulling punches when it comes to the boss rooms. Just not even slightly. So, once we get the jacket for the Infernal Knight, the 4 set is really great because, again, you're getting points to Blackwater and Thermite Mine, except this time you're getting 3 for both. Fantastic. You're getting 50 extra fire damage to Blackwater Cocktail. That's flat fire damage. And you are going to get a basically a passive ability called Call Forth the Inferno, which is a 10% chance on attack to have flames burst out from the earth beneath your foes. It's a 3-second skill recharge with a 3-second duration, 8-meter target area, hitting 5 targets and doing fire and burn damage. It is the Fires of Damnation, reaching up for your enemies. It sounds really awesome, and I'd love to use it, but apparently it just wasn't in the cards. Sometimes farming is so tedious. But anyway, it's the Shattered Realm. I was really hoping that at least one of the runs that I did of this would provide that item, and they just didn't. But such is the action RPG loop. That's why we're all so addicted to it, right? Nice. As far as weapons go for our Commando, there are 2 that are pretty cool as far as attacking weapons go. The first is Aladra's Spellblade. This is actually a dagger that is it's modifying the way that Fire Strike works. So it's giving Fire Strike some more fire and burn damage, but it is modifying all lightning and physical damage directly into fire. So Aladra's Spellblade is going to make our Fire Strike completely focused on dealing fire damage, and since our build is based completely around fire anyway, it is really useful to just funnel and smack people with the Fire Strike. Considering that not a lot of the other gear really leans into that or changes anything, I think Spellblade is pretty great. It's also got a 15% chance on attack to do more fire damage. I mean, with the amount of fire that shoots out of our character during this video, I'm sure you can tell what the actual focus is. But it's got a 1.5-ish second skill recharge, as well as a 1-second duration. The damage it does is just fire and burn. It's nothing super special, but considering it's 15% chance on attack and the amount of AoE damage that we deal that just lingers and sits out on the field, it's basically going to activate as often as possible. It's kind of ridiculous. The other weapon I would consider taking, the weapon that we were using in the last video, is the Herald of Blazing Ends, and to be honest with you, I kind of miss it because it was the weapon that would call down yet another meteor. It had a 10% chance on attack to rain down another meteor. It was doing less damage as far as us hitting people with Fire Strike, which is kind of what Spellblade is there to cover for, to compensate for, but I missed the other meteor, you know? I rain down a lot of meteors as it is, but I kind of just want to keep raining more. We'll see. Maybe I'll change it. The monster infrequent that you want to pick up with this class is the Colossal Fortress. Now that sounds kind of weird when you say it like that, but I think that's the item. Basically, this is the shield that you'll get from the... Maybe they are Colossus? Maybe they're called Colossi? The big ethereal behemoths who are just... they'll punch you for days and race to the finish line of who gets to hit you first or who gets to kill you. And they pop out of Aether Shrines every single time. Maybe not every time, but like it feels like every time because I'm always running and screaming from them no matter what class I'm playing. It's those guys that you want to get this shield from. The one that I picked up, I was lucky enough to get a whole bunch of lightning and poison resistance on, as well as some physical resistance, so it was really, really a good drop. Couple with that, you're also getting points into Counter-Strike and Vindictive Flame. You're reducing the cooldown of Counter-Strike by a wee little bit, adding some weapon damage to Counter-Strike, and then also adding some of your retaliation damage to Counter-Strike as well. So just insanely buffing Counter-Strike for when you do get hit, and then also buffing Vindictive Flame in much the same way. You're reducing the cooldown of Vindictive Flame, increasing the area in which it hits, and increasing the damage that it can do. This is a phenomenal shield for this build, and I would always recommend picking it up. I mean, as long as you're taking Counter-Strike and Vindictive Flame, right? But considering how tanky focused we are, kind of a must take, I think. And these are the guys I was talking about, the big goofy Colossus, Aether, Flux. Oh god, they're just, thank you. We're in the Shattered Realm. We can focus on just clearing small mobs up to the bar to get rid of those big dumpy fuckers, but Jesus, they're so terrifying. There it is. Just got to pick up a teeny tiny little soul, fill the bar completely up, and then watch them all evaporate, because the game will not suffer them to live anymore. Now, as far as other gear, I haven't mentioned our relic is Annihilation. I really should have had this in the last video, but it was kind of last second, so I wasn't thinking super hard. But Annihilation is physical fire and burn damage, increasing attack speed and casting speed with some spirit in there, and it is reducing your skill energy costs. That is anywhere from 6 to 10%, but any reduction in energy cost is incredibly useful because we're energy hungry so much. Annihilation also gives 1 to all skills in Demolitionist, so thank you, Annihilation. And on top of that, we're also getting a 20% chance to drop yet another meteor onto the bad guys in front of us. I don't think I need to tell anybody how much fun meteors are, so we're Meteor Commando here. Do that? I mean, Cocktail Commando was, like, you had the alliteration, it was just perfect, but I definitely can't use it again. You know, it's like Pokemon, when you evolve, your name has to change at least a little bit. Meteor Commando? Cometeor? I don't know. I'll think of it later. You'll see it in the thumbnail eventually. Oh, this is past me talking to future me. Anyway, back to what we were doing. So, your relic, easy enough. Your the other really important monster infrequent for this build is Martin's Crest. So Martin's Crest, the thing that it changes is Thermite Mine, and it's going to add flat damage to Thermite Mine, which is fine. I mean, more damage is good, but it's also going to allow Thermite Mine to live for another 12 seconds. Considering that it lives for 6 seconds prior to this. So in total, once you get Martin's Crest, it lives for 18 seconds. Meaning that you just drop these fire bombs on the ground and they linger and they burn and they burn. And everybody gets hit and you activate all your devotions and everybody's happy except the bad guys who are writhing in the flames, and that's where, you know, you just walk away. You just plug your ears and you don't listen to the screams, and then everybody's happy. But it is really important. So Martin's Crest and Colossal Fortress, the shield and the metal, very, very important for the build. And then as far as other things I've taken to keep me alive that are less helpful in the build but still helpful for survivability, there is the Demon Bone leg plates. We're getting some points into Overguard and reduced stun duration, as well as some decent resistances. It's not my favorite thing. I mean, it's not bad by any means. I mean, it really is filling in a gap that my previous pants could not, but I really wish there was something better, and I just couldn't find it. Not on any of this grind that I managed. But, you know, there they are. There is also Golem-born Greaves, which is our boots, and the more that I look at these guys, the harder time I have taking them away. So I'm just going to call them a staple for the build, but these Greaves are going to give you 2 to Menhir's Bulwark, 3 to Temper, and 2 to Break Morale. Break Morale is your Warcry modifier. Temper is your... it's the modifier for Flame Touched, which is on the Demolitionist side of things. And then Menhir's Bulwark is your exclusive Soldier defensive ability. Golem-born also super useful. You got a 25% chance when hit, and you're going to get 300 armor. You're going to get 3,500 internal trauma retaliation, and then 30% reduced attack speed retaliation for 2 seconds. That goes on for 15 seconds. The cooldown on that ability is 30 seconds, so it is a huge window in which you are going to be more tanky and more retaliatory to anybody that wants to punch you. So, look, more Colossus, my favorite enemies in the world. They even come in rainbow flavor, and they all disappear just the way God intended. It's so... Anyway, never pass up a chance to watch Colossus explode. It's always worth it. The vindication is always there. Colossal Grasp is the last one that we're going to talk about. These are the gloves. These are legendary gloves that are going to give you +3 to Decorated Soldier, and then +3 to Temper. Temper, again, is that modifier for Flame Touched, and Decorated Soldier is one of the passives for the soldier side of things that is going to give you, I think this is the bleeding resistance one. Let me double check. No, that's the elemental resistance one. Even better. Elemental resistance obviously is the most efficient. It is the most efficient resistance that you can get on anything, because any elemental resistance that you have is going to go into fire, cold, and lightning equivalent. So the Colossal Grasp can give you... Oh no, Colossal Grasp gives you points into Decorated Soldier, and at rank 4, Decorated Soldier gives you 12% elemental resistance. So how about that? 12 into all 3 for absolutely 0 effort. Gloves are good. They're also going to give some damage, both physical and internal drama, to Overguard. So whenever you hit your E button to increase your shieldies, you're going to be able to hit back for some damage as well. Some extra damage as well. On top of that, they also give you a 1 second extra to Blast Shield. Blast Shield is a Demolitionist ability, and it only activates when you drop below 60%. It is one of those abilities that I just really wanted to take in this build, but basically for 4 seconds you're going to get a big old damage absorption shield. You're going to get a huge amount of deflect. So at rank 15 you're getting 61% chance to avoid projectiles. You're getting a ton of pierce resistance, a ton of elemental resistance, +6% to all maximum resistances, and fire retaliation on top of that. Blast Shield is super good, and it is because of this ability when we drop down really quickly in health, we don't have to start freaking out right away, because the amount of tanky that we're getting because this ability is going off is just chef's kiss. It's fantastic stuff. So all that being said, as far as gear goes, there's really not much more to talk about. My rings and amulets are just, I can't find anything better. I'm looking, I'm trying to craft stuff, it's just, it's not there. it just isn't ready to meet me halfway. The game doesn't want me to have them. So, still looking for that. Hopefully, we'll get those soon. And, yeah, I mean, that kind of concludes the build. This is good enough to last through all of your, you know, plain old story content for Grim Dawn. And if I really had a whole weekend to just sit down and spam Shattered Realm, I'm sure I could make it, you know, decently far within the realm, the climb. But I didn't have that kind of time, so we called it at the early cutoff, taking the money and running. But that's it for me, everybody. Thanks so much for hanging out. I'll be back next week. I hadn't decided if we're doing lore next week or more builds, because, you know, it's up in the air. It's always up in the air. But thank you again so much for hanging out. Peace out, everybody. I'll see you later.